Hello everyone, I'm Renee Lobo and welcome to the Renee Lobo Report, bringing you issues of topical interest. Today my guest is Dr. Subramanian Swamy. He's come here many times before. He's the president of the Janata Party and previously he's held positions of a cabinet minister, law minister, member of the Planning Commission, as well as been 3 times member of the Lok Sabha, twice member of the Rajya Sabha. And he's here, he's giving a lot of talks in the United States. His upcoming talk is on this Sunday, which is June 9th, and it's going to be a luncheon meeting. It's going to be in Long Island in Sterling. So you can talk to him at that time. He'll be interacting with the audience as well, talking about current political climate in India, of course, and the 2014 national elections. And that's what we're going to be talking to him about as well. Dr. Swamy, thank you for coming back. And a lot of stuff has happened with the time I met up with you last year and now as well. Everybody's gearing up for the 2014 elections. All eyes are turned on that. But let's talk about the current political climate at this point of time, the issues facing the nation and how NRIs can actually be a integral part of this whole, scenario. So let's talk about what's happened at this point of time, wins and losses, big loss in Karnataka, and of course we saw in Uttarakhand as well as in Uttar Pradesh, and then in December we're going to be seeing 5 more states going into the polls. We're talking about Rajasthan and Delhi and Chhattisgarh. Tell us, where does Bharatiya Janata Party stand at this point of time, and can it win in these states?
Well, I'm part of the NDA, so
yes,
BJP
National
is also
Democratic Alliance, yes.
and BJP is also part of that. In fact, it's the dominant party in that.
So that's a conglomerate of quite a few parties.
Yes. About 7 parties. First of all, let me give you some perspective. Karnataka, yes, BJP lost, and its vote share fell 14%. But Congress, although it won in number of seats, its vote share hardly increased. This 14% vote was then taken largely by Yediyurappa,
right,
and a little bit by Devagowda's party.
Right.
In other words, it's the division of votes which led to the BJP defeat. Had Yediyurappa not been able to take away any vote, BJP would have won at this election again. So it's not the popularity of the Congress which is responsible. As far as the Uttarakhand is concerned, neither side got a majority. And then the Congress purchased the independents and they formed a majority. And of course, they're being in central government, the governors appointed in these states are all Congress people.
Now, do you feel that there are factions, internal factions in the Bharatiya Janata Party that's becoming a major factor in their loss?
It's factions are important in other parties, but in BJP, because of the RSS overall moral influence, or shall I say benign influence, these factions melt the moment RSS steps in. So I not worried about these factions. It's in a way a good thing that in peacetime, as we say, if factions fight it out and the issues become clear. But closing ranks will be quite easy for BJP from what I know.
Now, how do you see in the December elections? I mean, Karnataka obviously has become a morale booster for the Congress party.
It shouldn't be, because their vote has not increased. They should introspect in that such an atmosphere. How come their vote percentage didn't increase? Now, I think it is now a general common view held that Rajasthan will definitely go to BJP, Madhya Pradesh will once again go to BJP, Chhattisgarh will go to BJP. That's already 3. Delhi, it looks as if now there will be a change of government and the BJP will win that seat. By BJP, I mean there may be a few seats given to Janata Party, the JDU, and the Akali Dal is, for example, in Delhi is a very important party. And so the NDA, we can say, they are going to win, I think, 4 out of the 5 states.
I see. Do you think that the Narendra Modi magic will continue till 2014? And is he going to be the candidate for the Prime Minister's election?
Well, the magic is not the right word. Narendra Modi is coming with a track record of performance. He has been elected 3 times, and there's an enormous consensus. Even Congress think tanks like the Rajiv Gandhi Foundation finds that the state is performing far superior. Its agricultural growth rate is phenomenal, 11% compared to 2.5–3% of the national average. So he is coming to the people saying, I have done this in Gujarat, which nobody else was able to do. It was sustained. There's hardly any corruption there. There's no power breakdowns. With this track record, he is, he's obviously a candidate of great appeal, and I think, frankly, he's unstoppable.
So, from the Bharatiya Janata Party, it looks like it's Narendra Modi.
Yes.
It could be Sushma Swaraj.
I don't know who the Bharatiya Janata Party will select, but because it's for them to decide.
Yeah, but you're close to Mr. Modi.
Well, I've known him for a long time. I'm actually old Jansangi, so I know practically everybody. Even Sushma was, although she was a Socialist Party member before, but she was part of the Janata Party, so I knew her from that time. But it's for BJP to decide. But I would say that if one were to ask the party workers, my guess is that overwhelming majority would want Modi.
And how will he fare if Rahul Gandhi is on the other side? Because India is becoming a very young population.
Young population doesn't care for Rahul Gandhi, I must tell you very frankly. This is a wrong identification. Young people in India, unlike the Westerners, the Western countries, they care a lot for their parents, they have respect for the parents, there's respect for old age, and they are deferential to the people of experience. And we have not seen any election where Rahul Gandhi was in charge, where they won. And he has got some very bad defeats.
Do you think that the Nehru-Gandhi name
Yes. No, that is all gone because a whole new generation has come, which is post-independence. And if some of the mistakes committed by Gandhi, the Gandhi family, like Jawaharlal Nehru and Indira Gandhi, is now coming to haunt us. Take, for instance, Kashmir. Kashmir, the only mistake was Mr. Jawaharlal Nehru went to the UN when it was not necessary. We were the aggressed parties. The aggressor didn't go, and the aggressed party went. That is very most unusual. Second is that in the case of dealing with China, we made some very stupid mistakes. So I think the Nehru family mystique has completely been eroded. And Rahul Gandhi has not taken a stand on any public issue. People are very doubtful whether he knows anything at all. There are appellates, there are words which are being used for him which are quite derogatory nowadays. So I think if the Congress puts up Rahul Gandhi, I think there's no contest at all. Modi will just have a walkover. I probably think that Congress will repeat Manmohan Singh.
I see. So when we look at this scenario for the 2014, what do you think could be the challenges the Bharatiya Janata Party faces? Could it be the religious card that sometimes goes negative, especially with minorities?
Well, I'm not sure that it could be a negative factor. I'm not saying it cannot be, but it's a question of how you put it across. You see, the way the Congress is going about cultivating the Muslim and the Christian vote, it appears to me that bloc they are going to vote for Congress, the minorities. And in Karnataka we saw that. Therefore, what does one do to counter this strategy? Right. And that is to make the Hindus rise above their caste, language, regional thing. Now, what is that appeal? There's only one appeal. Hindutva is the only possible appeal by which we can make people rise above their...
Will that be inclusive? Because they feel that this is not an inclusive approach.
No, it is inclusive of all Hindus.
But not inclusive of everybody else.
Well, everybody else is with the other side, no. If the Muslims were not voting as a bloc for Congress, and they say we'll vote for the best candidate, then everybody would seek Muslim vote. But today it almost looks as if that the Muslim and Christian votes are become bonded labours of Congress. I mean, they seem to be bonded to Congress. So there is a sense that there's no point in seeking their vote. They are not going to give it to you, no matter how much you try, because they'll do better for them, offer them a better deal. And therefore, I think the best hope that can be is that you unite the Hindus to make them rise above caste, region, language.
But caste still continues to play a very pivotal role. So that's where people, so-called in the Hindu low caste,
yes,
they feel that they are not being treated well, so they go to the other side.
I'm not sure. In the 1977, all Hindu castes voted together. There have been a number of occasions when the issue comes, the castes unite. And many of these lower castes have now been empowered. You see, Mulayam Singh, Mayawati, and so on.
Right.
And Mayawati now has decided, and so is now Mulayam Singh, that they have no future unless they get the Brahmin community with them. They are openly wooing the Brahmin community. Mayawati was successful last time. That's how she got the absolute majority. She got the Brahmins to come on their side. Now Mulayam Singh is saying, no, I am also very keen to get the Brahmin vote. So once the lower castes or backward castes get empowered, they want to unite. So I think there is no such alienation that people talk about.
But do you feel there'll be a fear by the minorities that if BJP comes into power in 2014, they might not, their interests may not be safeguarded?
Yes, there would be a fear, but then they are responsible for it by mortgaging their vote to Sonia Gandhi. You see, today if there was even the slightest hope that the Muslims might vote for you, then we would change our program to say, make accommodation for them. But we think it's they've already gone over. They are already committed. They've become captive of the Congress. So therefore, our only hope lies in uniting the Hindus, and the Hindus are more than 80%.
But would you be wooing the minorities as well?
I don't think we'll woo them as minorities as the Congress does. We certainly say that we'll fight for the security of everybody. Whether he's a Hindu, Muslim, we don't care. Innocent people have to be protected. And we'll certainly say that that where the poor people are deprived due to discrimination, we'll fight. There's also the Muslim community. But that we know that's not going to have an effect on the Muslim community. They seem to have been in a trance over what Ms. Sonia Gandhi is promising them. And that, they will have to realize.
Do you think that Sonia Gandhi has been a good leader?
No, she's not a good leader. Good leader means a vision. She has no vision. It's basically manipulation, managing, threatening people to fall in line, using the CBI as she has done with Mayawati, and I wouldn't call such a person a good leader.
Now tell us, I know there's a lot of issues facing India at this point of time. Corruption is rampant. It's not just in India, it's all over the world, but this endemic corruption.
Yes.
And we talk about the chopper scam, the coal scam, the 2G spectrum scam, and we've got a lot of
fingers
scams.
If you count.
So there's a lot of scam here and a lot of scandals, a lot of corruption. And we're not saying it's just the Congress party. It's all over. It's all over the country. It's not just one party itself. How are we going to tackle this issue of accountability and transparency and more responsibility of the government?
Well, I think it's been much more in the Congress rule than it has been in any other rule. We saw that in the 2G. We saw that in the Colgate thing. And there are many more coming there in the cards. We can fight corruption, one in the short run and one with some long run measures. The short run measure is that you see that your investigating agencies are independent. Recently in the Colgate, it comes out that the minister has actually called the CBI and said, change the report. And it is unprecedented, you see. So we need to now empower the investigating agencies that they don't have to take orders from anybody to conduct an investigation. They must do it in their professional capacity. And so that's the short run way of doing it. The long run is we have to now realize that this globalization has introduced a new concept of materialistic pursuit, a one-dimensional materialistic pursuit. And as a consequence, a value system where wealth ownership is the sole criterion of social status. Now that was not so for India. In fact, many people in the early days used to ask, how can Indians follow Mahatma Gandhi who doesn't even dress properly? But we find that our spiritual leaders, people like Gandhi and so on, or Jayaprakash, they dress very simply, as distinct from the West, where everybody is very well dressed. You know, you can't expect the shoes of a candidate here not to be shining. So I think we now need to realize that pure material progress will not produce happiness, and that's why we find many people in the United States today converting to our philosophies, like Julia Roberts in Hollywood, and taking to practices like yoga and pranayam and so on. Because our ancient tradition was that you make material progress, but you also make spiritual advancement. And beyond a certain level of wealth, you start donating, philanthropy. And that's the only way to get happiness. When after earning and making a lot of wealth, you then see the society also benefits. So I think that's the long run, because this pursuit of wealth has created greed, and greed creates corruption. So that's the long run problem.
So you're talking about accountability. Do we need to have stricter judiciary here, that is completely separate from the other
No, the judiciary, there's not that much problem. The problem is that the investigating
agency.
Maybe
the court cases take forever,
That is not so in nowadays. For instance, we find 2G is producing very fast. Even by US standards, it's progressing very fast. That's not the real problem. The real problem is that the investigating agency should be immune from the ruling party, particularly since most of the corruption is being done by members of the ruling party.
So do you think that's possible?
Oh yes, that's possible, because there is tremendous public effervescence and enlightenment.
And I think the media can play a very big role as the fourth estate.
Media does play a big role by publicizing it. Of course, the media sometimes goes off beam, like they're on IPL, they've gone completely off beam. They got the wrong people. Chasing Srinivasan was a total disaster, and now we find that the IPL commissioner, Mr. Rajiv Shukla, was actually meeting Dawood Ibrahim. That's the latest disclosure. So I think media has its own agendas, and they ought to try to rise above it.
Coming to, of course, besides corruption, which is a major factor, we're talking about inflation, food prices, commodities that we're talking for, and then pretty much 45% of India is still under the poverty line.
I wouldn't say 45%. That must be, you must be reading the literature of the Marxists.
But we still don't have.
It's a substantial. I mean, I would say 26, 27.
I would say it's much more than that.
Well, I'm an economist, and you can't argue with me. But let's say even 26 is a large number.
We're talking about more than
a quarter of the population.
So a quarter of the population still living under poverty line. We're talking of literacy issues. We're talking about
the quality of life.
Basic quality of life you're not getting.
I agree. That I agree entirely. But this is not these are rectifiable problems. What is the difficulty in creating a world-class university? What's the difficulty in building roads which are like the United States turnpikes? I mean, these are not rocket science, building a road. What's the difficulty in giving 24 hours of assured power supply? I mean, these are very ordinary things. The problem is corruption, and the fact that the people who are responsible are not accountable. And I think with the awareness, one of the biggest mistakes we made after 1947 is educated people avoiding politics. You see, here in the United States, people who come with the top degrees from top universities, they enter politics. Take your President Obama. He's a Harvard Law School graduate, and he was top of the class. And he could have been a billionaire today as a corporate lawyer. But he has chosen to go to politics. And so Bush was an MBA from Harvard. So I think...
from Harvard too?
I am, yes. I'm a PhD from Harvard.
And that reminds me of a little tangential thing. You were teaching economics at Harvard,
yes.
but your ideology came in the way.
Well, it came not in the way of the university, it came in the way of some of the left-wing people who took advantage of a obscure vote in the faculty where the catalog was to be adopted. I was already recommended by the Department of Economics to teach these courses, and they, behind my back, without telling me, without giving me an opportunity to explain, on an article I wrote in Indian newspapers, yeah, in the DNA newspaper in Bombay, which has nothing to do with it. There were no complaints from the class, my students. But these were ideological people. There were many of them were communists, like Amartya Sen. So they moved a vote, and they had the quorum because they came organized. Otherwise, normally nobody attends that meeting. And I didn't know about the meeting. Otherwise, I would have alerted my friends to go there. So they delayed, and it suited me because I found it
Will there be a comeback?
I don't want to come back because you see, 2 months at Harvard every year was already becoming a strain. But the university kept saying, no, only you can teach China and India together. Otherwise, you'll have to get 2 separate economists, one for China and one for India. So you're the only one who can compare the 2. And so they were very keen on my coming every year.
Tell us how NRIs can play a big role, especially for the 2014 elections.
Well, NRIs can do 3 kinds of things. And I'm not talking about giving money or putting, remittances high. That's all right. That role is over. You've done it. You've done a first-class job for the country. A lot of money came through the NRIs and remittances. But now the NRIs, because the world is getting smaller, you can travel frequently, and the internet, so on. They should transfer their expertise for specific areas in India. That's one. The second is, many of the problems that we have here, we have in India, are capable of solutions. So they should prepare briefs and try and sell it. So NRI can be part of the
solution.
Yeah, that's right. They should do it. The third thing is, I think many of the corruption of Indian politicians is done in the United States. I mean, they buy land here, territory here, they open bank accounts. I think that also, if we catch a couple of people, will have a very salutary effect on our. So the NIAs are part and parcel. During the emergency, they played a heroic role in seeing that it is discredited, and they succeeded.
So tell us, lastly, I know we're out of time. I could have talked to you forever because we can really have a long talk on these things. But there's the United Democratic Alliance, and then there's
United Progressive Alliance.
United Progressive Alliance. That's a Congress party's coalition, and then we have the National Democratic Alliance.
Right.
Where do you see both these alliances in 2014 elections?
Well, according to me, the people's minds have already been made up, and I, in fact, take the Karnataka election as an index because the Congress vote didn't increase. So if the BJP just makes this course correction on seeing that the splinter groups, etc., are brought back, I'm sure that there will be absolute majority for the NDA, and we'll have a new government.
And would you like to run?
Well, I'm already been to Parliament 5 times, so going to Parliament is no big thing. And certainly now I have won the case in the Supreme Court on the electronic voting machine. I think in 2009, Ms. Sonia Gandhi had targeted me on through the electronic voting machine, and I should have won that election. I mean, in 2004. But I lost it, and then 2009 I decided not to contest because the electronic voting machine was unsafeguarded. Now I've won the case in the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court is requiring, and this election commission said they would do it, a voter receipt, and so I will contest.
So as president of the Janata Party, member of the National Democratic Alliance, what would be your message to our viewers?
Well, I say be optimistic about India. India is all these turmoils are churning India. There's a renaissance developing. And by the end of this decade, India will be a global economic power.
Thank you so much. And Dr. Subramanian Swamy will be giving a talk. It's a luncheon meeting with Dr. Swamy this Sunday, July 9th, and it's from 12 noon to 4 p.m. There's a Q&A session as well. He's going to talk about the political climate and 2014 elections. This is going to be in Sterling in Long Island, and that's in Bethpage. So all are invited to come. And thank you so much, Dr. Swamy, an author, former cabinet minister, president of the Janata Party, member of the National Democratic Alliance. I'm Renee Lobo. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you, Dr. Swamy.